I'm your host, BKP. We're live this morning from Blue Jeans Pizza in Blue Ridge, Georgia. And we're now joined by the Fannin County Sheriff Dane Kirby. Sheriff Kirby, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Let's just jump right in this morning. National media, online, the internet, TV, Fannin County, this gentleman, and let me just get started here. This gentleman, William Christopher Gibbs, is 27 years old, and he drove himself to the hospital last week. This is Thursday night, claiming he had ricin on his hands.
Right.
Okay, so somebody walks in, and we're going to start right there. It says they have ricin on their hands. What's protocol? Hospital, how do they treat it? Who do they call? They call you. And where are we at in the case? So bring us through that.
Well, I'm not absolutely certain that Mr. Gibbs initially went into the hospital and claimed that he had ricin on his hands, as plainly as that. I think there was some deductions that had to be made to come to that conclusion, but hospital staff, I think, was able to deduct that there was a pretty good chance that he had been possibly dealing with, certainly with some sort of toxin and likely ricin.
Okay.
So, of course, they contacted our office, and our patrol division responded to the hospital and figured out pretty quick that, there could be some risk here. So our criminal investigation unit got involved. They responded to the hospital, and it was figured out pretty quickly that there was a chance that this substance that he had been in contact with was still inside his vehicle, which was parked there at the hospital. So Cherokee County has a real good hazmat, hazardous materials unit down there. So we contacted them. They were glad to respond. They also had some other resources that were available to them through the Army National Guard. They have I hate to use the term weapons of mass destruction, but that's their title. That's what they do. That's what they're trained in. And they're a weapons of mass destruction team that responds to things like this. They were also glad to come up and respond, which they did. And also, once certain things start rolling, the FBI has to be notified. So all that was done.
When you say things start rolling, the FBI, what happens that says now it's time to call the FBI because of the substance,
because of the substance,
you found,
yes,
what they could do with it?
Because of the substance, because it was a ricin incident. I'm not exactly sure what kind of written and formal policies the National Guard unit works under, or even Cherokee County's hazmat unit.
But there is a point where
there is a point where the FBI is notified. I'm not exactly sure if it's something that's in writing, or if it's just a protocol that they use for being good sound judgment.
Okay, so we have the hospital. The hospital makes a call. You're involved. Hazmat comes up. Weapons of mass destruction, as we called it. They come up. They now have quarantined the car, and they're checking that.
Right.
What happened to the young man, and what happened? Like, how much ricin was found? Was it found in the home? What was the intent? What are some of the things coming out of the investigation?
The substance that was located was found in Mr. Gibbs' car.
Right.
I do not know how much of it there was. I never saw it. The WMD team with the Guard had a mobile lab unit that they brought up here, and all that stuff was taken inside that lab when it was brought out of the vehicle. I think actually what they did is they may have gone in initially and got a sample out of the vehicle and took it in and tested it before they recovered the quantity, if you will. But it was tested, and they did determine that there was a presence of ricin in the substance that they tested.
But it was in the vehicle.
It was in the vehicle.
Have they found it at the home?
I do not know what they found at the home, but I will tell you that I have no reason, or nothing indicates to me that anything at all was found at the home.
There's nothing that indicates it at this time.
Right.
Okay. Now, once searching the home and starting to look at this guy, is there any indication or anything come to light of what he was planning? Why did he have ricin? Do we
Okay.
know anything of what he was planning to do, or any background on this young man?
I do not know of any plans that he had for what he was in possession of. I personally did not conduct the interviews with him. I think my office may have conducted a very brief initial interview with him, but I don't think anything came out of that on our end with what we did as far as what his plans were. And I have no knowledge that the FBI got any information like that either. I just do not know.
Well, as a news source, I don't make light of this at all, but as a news source, I see other news sources that report things, and I know that these federal agencies and these other agencies don't release this stuff. I mean, if I called right now, FBI, or I call the Department of Justice, they're going to say, we can't discuss this at this time. It's an ongoing case.
Right.
But I find it interesting that some media outlets feel they know something about it. Right now, I guess my biggest thing for the citizens, it's always about citizens, is there a concern to the citizens of Fannin County? Is there anything that they should be concerned of? Water contamination. I got a message, we get all kinds of messages 2 days ago about water contamination or the possibility. Is there anything that you know of that the citizens should be concerned about?
Brian, I know of absolutely nothing. I know of no threat that exists now. Like I say, I can't say for certain what the guy's plans were with this stuff, but even if he did have a plan, there's a chance he could have been making this stuff just to see if he could do it, and then he's stuck with, well, what am I going to do now? So I have no idea, but I do know that there is no threat, there is no danger, there is no reason for concern. Everything has been confiscated and seized and dealt with. Every other location that we know of that he has been at has been searched.
So right now, there's really nothing that leads us to a concern that we need to report to the citizens as far as a threat or a concern that they should have today because of this.
Not at all. That's exactly right.
One more thing, Sheriff, and I want to thank you so much for coming in to explain to the citizens out there in North Georgia what you have seen through this investigation. Any other background? Does William Gibbs, does he have a record? Has he been arrested before? Does he have any priors that we should know about?
You know, Mr. Gibbs was on probation, so that tells me that he has had problems in the past. But as far as our office goes, I think my guys may have had some low-level contact with him in the recent past. But as far as him being someone who was on our radar or someone who we spend a lot of time dealing with out here, that's not the case. I really did not know Mr. Gibbs. I know a lot of his family. He comes from a good family, a lot of good people there. And, you know, I don't know where this came from, to be honest with you. I didn't know the boy.
Well, and actually there's a lot to be said for that, because we still in Fannin County, it's a small county, and almost know everybody, or if there's someone that is surfacing with trouble, that comes up real quick. So if you don't know, and this name doesn't ring a bell to somebody that is having a daily run-in, that is one more thing, and I cringe to do this, and I apologize. Actually, I say this with apology, because the other media now, if you have a tattoo and it's got a rebel flag, okay, what Jeff Foxworthy, you might be a redneck. Well, they've got a whole list of things now that test the big media that you might be white supremacist.
Okay.
So they start going through your tattoos and going through your Facebook and everything like that. Is there any concern, or is there anything as far as white supremacy that you've seen with this young man that stands out? Some people are saying that on Facebook, but to me, I say it like this, and I'm going to give you the floor. To me, it's upsetting to me, because just because we live in North Georgia, just because we don't see it 100% the way some do, doesn't make all these people bad people. He shouldn't have Ricin, obviously, but you understand what I'm saying.
I'm not sure if I have looked at his I think I have looked at his Facebook page. I think there's a couple of different ones. out there, but I think there is a Facebook page that I looked at. And you know, the only thing I can say is this. Any conclusions along those lines that I would draw personally would have to come from that Facebook page, because I don't have any other information that indicates anything like that. So people will have, if they want to draw their conclusions from a Facebook page, then there's not a whole lot that I can do about that.
So your Department of Justice, FBI, there's nobody that's conveyed with local law enforcement, the sheriff's office, that they seen where this was an attempt to do something major based on
that. If that talk has been had on their end, I don't know about it, because I have certainly not had that conversation with the feds.
Well, is there anything about this case or ongoing with this case that we left out this morning that you'd like to share with the citizens?
You know, I don't think so, Brian. I think you pretty well covered it and summed it up. And the biggest thing that we need to make sure everybody knows is that there is no threat. There is no reason to be alarmed and concerned. And I think this thing probably worked out about as well as it could have. You know, what would have been not as ideal would have been for Mr. Gibbs to have not followed through with what he followed through with, as far as going to the hospital to get treatment and things like that, and this substance still be out there somewhere that we and us not know about it. That could have been a little bit concerning, but that's not the case, so we don't have to deal with that. And I think it's in about as good a shape as it can be.
Well, our first and foremost concern, and we know it's yours also, is the safety of the citizens of Fannin County,
Right.
and if there's anything they need to be concerned of.
Right,
And
right.
we appreciate you coming in.
Well, you're welcome, and I will say Mr. Gibbs is still being held in the Fannin County Jail on a reckless conduct charge with a probation violation. We're waiting on the FBI to either draw up a complaint or to get an indictment. I think their grand juries meet weekly, so they could probably do either in a timely enough fashion. So we'll let them make their decisions about how they want to proceed with that, and when they come back to us and let us know what they've done or what they're going to do, we'll do what we can to help them. They've been great to work with, been very helpful, been very eager to take the ball and take responsibility and use the resources that they've had to deal with this thing the proper way, and I was thankful for that.
Well, Sheriff, thank you very much for coming and updating the citizens of Fannin County and basically everybody around North Georgia. We have viewers all over the state and several other states. So if you've heard out there on the internet anywhere or in the major media markets about ricin being found in North Georgia, you have just had an opportunity to hear from the Fannin County Sheriff Dane Kirby on an update, and we want to thank him. When we return, it's time for the All-Star Panel. Now, folks, I don't want you to get shocked. We're letting a Cubs fan in. We're letting a Yankee fan in. I mean, this thing could get out there. All-Star Panel when we get back. Rick, John Ayers, George might get in and talk baseball. He showed up, and we offer it to anybody who wants to come by and say hello to be on the All-Star Panel. We'll be back right after these messages. Again, Sheriff, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in